After going through minis and trying to decide who's popular but also who's missing, I thought a bit about how Snowfur is actually a very popular Warrior Cats character despite only really appearing in that one book. But a lot of what I see about Snowfur doesn't really seem to care who Snowfur is so much as what relationship she's part of. And don't get me wrong, her relationship and how she interacts with it is a very large part of her character, but I think that very often elements of her character are overlooked to make her fit better in the ideal picture of that romance. Key elements of her character often get ignored, and often Snowfur is treated like she's too good for this world, a pure cinnamon roll of a character who tamed some sort of wild beast in Thistleclaw. But that's just not exactly all there is to her, and her behavior towards Thistleclaw, well, I feel like it falls more towards enabling than it does taming. Now, Blue Star's Prophecy is often, in my experience, the first super edition a lot of people read. Some people even have it as their first Warrior Cats book. Additionally, a lot of people who say that they only read the first series will include Blue Star's Prophecy in the first series, even though it came out in the same exact year as The Fourth Apprentice. For several reasons, I'm not really too terribly fond of Blue Star's Prophecy, mostly due to what it does to Blue Star's character in Series 1, but on some level, I also feel like because it's been so long since most people have read Blue Star's Prophecy, it's all gotten kind of fuzzy. So I think a summary is necessary this time around. Just a Snowfur summary, not an entirety of Blue Star's book summary. Snowfur is Bluefur's sister, also known as Blue Star, and yes, Pine Star named both of them with the fur suffix at the same time. I guess it just fit twice, and he didn't want to curse either of them with pelt. He's an uncreative old man, the position is wasted on him, and he should go be a kitty pet. Snowkit, like her sister Bluekit, opens her eyes and starts running around at about a day old. They do kitten stuff together. They're just babies. They're pretty close and don't seem to be able to stay upset with each other even though they want to. They both notice pretty early that their father doesn't seem interested in them, with Snowkit saying, "Why couldn't Stormtail come to the nursery to see us?" Snowkit whined. "Adderfang's always coming to the nursery to see Patchkit and Leopardkit. He brought them a mouse last time." Her mother makes an excuse as to why he can't. He's a very important warrior, something that any adult reader knows is not a good excuse for him to ignore his kids. When he does show up soon after, he's distant and terse with them. Both kits seem inspired to impress him afterwards regardless. That said, Stormtail really becomes a Bluefur problem going forward, and Snowfur doesn't get involved so much in that conflict. Their father was probably just as distant with Snowfur, maybe even more so than with Bluefur, but we don't really see it. So Stormtail stops being relevant to Snowfur about here. While Snowkit is a bit bolder than Bluekit and a little bit more willing initially to do things against the wishes of their parents, she easily tempts Bluekit into breaking the rules as well. This leads to Snowkit eating too many poppy seeds and falling asleep, and Bluekit, Snowkit, and Goosefeather all getting in trouble with Moonflower. Additionally, as a kit, Snowkit names another child, Rosekit, and her sister Bluekit names Thistlecit. Sparrowpelt is made her mentor. The kits they named, who are only 2 moons younger than them, are shown to be close with them. Well, sort of. Thistlecit, who is a bit bratty, is someone Snowpaw is sweet to, while Bluepaw is annoyed with. Snowpaw is a very excited apprentice and seems to do a little bit of leaping before she looks. She has a moment when Bluepaw teases her and she snaps back with a "You can shut up," which surprises her sister and she quickly apologizes for. She's not jealous when her sister shows promise as a hunter and even brags about Bluepaw's accomplishments, although it does seem to spark a bit of competition in her. When Goosefeather finds a sign of war in her first prey, Snowpaw is super excited to fight in battle, even though she's only a few days into training. She asks her mother to teach her a battle move, but Moonflower insists that she won't be fighting. She's also again shown to be a bit more clumsy and a little bit less capable than Bluepaw when following their mother and mentor to war, and complains later that her white fur makes her too obvious in the open. Bluepaw notices that her sister seems very eager to get involved in battle, and notices, quote, "darkness in her sister's gaze." Later, their mother is killed while attacking the other clan's medicine supply, and both sisters are devastated. Bluepaw tells her sister that she'll take care of her now that her mother is gone, and Snowpaw lashes out at her in response. Snowpaw is a wreck after this, dragging her tail in the mud at her mother's funeral and generally acting depressed and lethargic. Despite her outburst earlier in the day, she finds comfort in her sister. Later, we still kind of see Snowpaw lagging behind Bluepaw, with Bluepaw commenting on it, but Bluepaw's thoughts of her sister are still muddied by her mother's death, and Bluepaw is feeling betrayed by Snowpaw's ability to be cheerful, reacting negatively to Snowpaw's enthusiasm and finding petty reasons to justify those feelings. These aren't things I'm inferring, by the way, these are just things that the book is telling you. Snowpaw is apologetic for her sister's behavior towards the others, and Bluepaw recognizes that this treatment of her sister is unfair and feels guilt for what she's said. Snowpaw is seen later with Thistlepaw saying, "If any cat says anything about the battle with WindClan, I'll shred them," she vowed. "I'm bored of hearing about it." And I feel that this reflects that whatever off-screen gatherings Snowpaw has been to before, people have been talking about the battle where her mother dies. We learn that Snowpaw's friend Thistlepaw had gotten into a fight in the last gathering when somebody made a comment about him looking like a kitten. Snowpaw continues to sweetly and placidly try to calm down Thistlepaw when he argues with his mentor, which annoys Bluepaw. That said, she acts very similarly towards her angry sister. Additionally, when Bluepaw has a friendly chat with Crookedpaw, Snowpaw implies that she was doing something wrong or gambling with a potential half-clan relationship. The conversation escalates quickly with her hissing, "You're just jealous," when Bluepaw brings up her crush on Thistlepaw. Snowpaw's relationship with Thistlepaw is their biggest point of contention from here on out. Snowpaw flirts with Thistlepaw and tells Bluepaw that he makes her purr. Bluepaw hates Thistlepaw because Thistlepaw is arrogant and rude and mean to people. But at the same time, it seems like it's half about the growing distance between Snowpaw and Bluepaw more so than it's about Thistlepaw. Snowpaw herself does not think about it as very complex. There is no rule in the rulebook that Thistlepaw can't play basketball Bluepaw. During a battle later, Snowpaw yet again shows her more ruthless side by encouraging her sister to aim attacks at Crookedpaw's muzzle. Crookedpaw, who has a twisted, once broken jaw. Fighting together seems to mend the relationship between the sisters somewhat, with Snowpaw's encouragement after the battle making Bluepaw feel, quote, a burst of affection. Snowpaw insists to her sister that she can be close with both her and Thistlepaw, something that Bluepaw doesn't believe is true, and they get along better for a while here. Later, when Bluepaw gets the two of them into a dangerous situation, Snowpaw doesn't have any resentment and instead praises her sister's bravery. Snowpaw not being overly focused on recklessness or dangerous ideas might be part of why she doesn't see any problems with Thistlepaw later. This, however, is just speculation on my part. It's generally just very in character for Snowpaw not to feel like a dangerous situation is a dangerous situation. Later, Snowpaw is terrified when Bluepaw implies that Goosefeather might have had a prophecy about her, seeing as it was a prophecy from Goosefeather that led, in her eyes, to the death of their mother. She responds to the idea that he could have foretold something about her sister with panic and anger, and insists she not listen to it. The conversation quickly transitions to Snowpaw asking her sister to try and get along with Thistlepaw better, which Bluepaw immediately refuses. Bluefur relishes that she can spend the next couple moons as a warrior alone with her sister without Thistlepaw, and they spend time together without him, growing close again basically as she intended. But Thistleclaw is made a warrior early, and we see Bluefur actually have a thought about him. She has concern about his arrogance, but forces herself to not react negatively to him like she did as a kitten. Snowfur, again, we don't see in her head, but he makes her purr. After this, Snowfur stops sharing a nest with her sister, and Bluefur is sad. That said, it's not like they grow apart after this. Their time of vague being mad at each other is basically over. Likewise, Bluefur doesn't fight with her as she spends time with Thistleclaw in the wake of Sweetpaw's death. That said, Bluefur is internally judging Snowfur the whole time for being moony over him, and other cats seem to be gossiping about their relationship as well, which gives Bluefur secondhand embarrassment. Soon after, Snowfur takes Bluefur out alone to tell her that she is pregnant. Snowfur is very worried about what her sister thinks of Thistleclaw, overstressing to her what she believes to be his good qualities and insisting that she trusts that he is good. What's interesting to me about this scene is that although Bluefur has internally judged Thistle quite a few times for his overconfidence in her sister's presence, she has never voiced a specific concern about him to Snowfur beyond just not really getting along with him. But Snowfur's dialogue here implies that she feels like she needs to convince her sister of Thistleclaw's goodness. Bluefur tries to be happy for her sister even though she doesn't like Thistleclaw when she notices how concerned she is about the two of them not getting along. Snowfur has a single kit, but struggles with being cooped up in the nursery. She really enjoyed her warrior duties. She complains that Thistleclaw is free to do his job while she's stuck in the nursery. Bluefur feels frustrated that Snowfur isn't happier with her position, even though she is glad she's not in it. Additionally, the crowd in the nursery seems to be annoying Snowfur, so Bluefur takes her out for a walk while the kits are playing, although Snowfur has trouble leaving her kit alone for even a minute. On their walk, Snowfur playfights with her sister and expresses a longing to be involved in battles again. She notices that Bluefur isn't exactly stern about being enemies with the other clan's warriors in conversation, and aggressively tries to convince Bluefur to date Thrushpelt. They get into a fight, but as Snowfur tries to stomp off, they scent ShadowClan in their territory. Eager for a fight, Snowfur takes on the invaders, and when they run away, she chases them across the road and gets instantly hit by a car. And from there, she's dead. At first, Bluefur is mourning and doesn't pay much attention to White Kit, but is convinced by a nightmare, possibly one sent by Snowfur in StarClan, to be there for him. It's at this point Bluefur notices Thistleclaw teaching the kitten tiring and advanced battle moves in her absence, and not paying enough attention to if or not the kitten was old enough or capable enough to handle them. In general, Thistleclaw and Bluefur's relationship degrades further, and Thistleclaw proves time and again that he does not properly look out for children, between the way that he trains Tigerpaw and the way that he has Tigerpaw attack a much younger child. Out of concern for her nephew, Bluefur goes on to essentially raise White Kit in her sister's absence. At Blue Star's leader ceremony, Snowfur says, "You have sacrificed so much," Snowfur meowed, "and our clan walks a safer path now." Bluefur felt her breath stir in her fur as her sister touched her head and went on. "With this life I give you pride, so that you may know your own worth and the worth of your clan." She also very briefly appears to Spotted Paw and Spotted Leaf's heart, promising her that StarClan will do its best to look after Bluefur's kittens. She also has a chapter from Secrets of the Clans, which is 2 years before Blue Star's prophecy came out. Now, Secrets of the Clans is a bit of a weird book. Everything is a bit different in it. It was written by Tui, and is the only book, from what I understand, that was ever written by Tui, who was an editor on Warrior Cats otherwise. So while it's really strong in some areas that Warrior Cats isn't usually strong, a lot of what goes into Secrets of the Clans later comes out retconned, or changed, or not really matching up. Snowfur implies that she died in the exact same way, and all the character names are the same, but all the characters are acting a little bit weird, and they also imply that White Storm was an apprentice while she died and not a kit. And then the last thing that I believe is relevant to any sort of summary is a scene from Crooked Star's Promise where Crooked Star sees a conversation between Thistleclaw and Shredtail. Thistleclaw is confident in the wake of Snowfur's death that he can get Sunstar's favor as deputy. Shredtail questions if or not he's also grieving, considering that Snowfur was his cat wife, and Thistleclaw responds, "Of course!" Thistleclaw slashed at a moss-coated tree. "Snowfur shouldn't have died. It should have been Bluefur on the Thunderpath instead." "What about your kit?" Shredtail pressed. "Your son?" Thistleclaw curled his lip. "He takes after his mother," he spat. "There's no fire in his belly, no hunger for battle." He swung his gaze around to his mentor. "Why are we talking?" he snarled. "I came to train, not to talk." This is interesting because it contradicts an element of Snowfur's character that I believe is one of the strongest, and that is that she loves to fight. She feels antsy when she doesn't get to kick butt for a while. And, okay, I'm sure compared to Thistleclaw specifically, she's not exactly on the same level, but Blue Star's book is constantly calling attention to it, likely as foreshadowing for her eventual death on the Thunderpath. Snowfur is so enthralled by fighting that she dies chasing fleeing invaders across the road. And while she is generally patient and kind, she is prone to snapping and having outbursts when things get to be too much or somebody steps on the wrong toe. On her relationship with Thistleclaw, though, Snowfur never makes Thistleclaw better. Sure, Thistleclaw starts showing how much worse he can act in the wake of her death, but she was never someone trying to change him. She was sweet to him and tried to calm him down when he was acting poorly as a kitten apprentice, but he wasn't swayed by it. Thistleclaw loved her in whatever way Thistleclaw loves somebody, and he never claims otherwise. He argues that White Kit takes after his mother in disdain, but this doesn't read really as a retcon or a writing error. It reads as Thistleclaw being defensive about his choice to take advantage of his wife's death while talking to another cat questioning him about it. Alternatively, he could very well just be angry as Bluefur starts taking a more active role in his child's life. There are a lot of very valid character reasons for Thistleclaw to say this, even if it was during the period of time where he was working with his son. But Thistleclaw isn't this good guy who's being unfairly judged by Bluefur. We don't have any indication that he's changed for the worse just because Snowfur is gone, and it's not accurate to imply he had. There's no proof of it aside from just seeing more of Thistleclaw afterwards. Nobody says, "Oh, Thistleclaw is in mourning though." Despite what Warrior Cat's fact videos have led you to believe, Thistleclaw is not supposed to be the one who's in the right. While what he is before Snowfur dies is largely just mean and fearless, we simply just don't see much of his actions aside from maybe 1 or 2 patrols until that point. We hadn't really been alone with him as an adult at all. Before Snowfur dies, we get him saying things like, Thistleclaw shouldered his way to the front. "We should do more than drive them off," he growled. "We should give them a battle they won't forget in a hurry. which obviously is him openly implying that they should kill in battle, which isn't acceptable in the warrior code, and if you were confused about if or not he really meant that he wanted to kill them, just to drill it in and make it more obvious that he's talking openly about murder, he reiterates soon after, "We should shred them where they fall, not let them escape," Thistleclaw hissed. So he hasn't changed. Snowfur does not make him a new man, she doesn't fix him, and she doesn't unfix him by dying. To be clear, Goosefeather is warning about the dangers of Thistleclaw almost endlessly after Snowfur dies, as we transition to the part of the story where Bluefur is becoming a mother. At her leader ceremony, Snowfur in StarClan herself says that the clan walks a safer path now thanks to Bluefur doing what she's done. At the time where Bluefur's disdain of him matters the most, he starts training his child inappropriately before he's been apprentice, he nearly kills Oakhart when he's found on their territory instead of chasing him off for any sort of normal punishment, and encourages his apprentice to attack an untrained kitty pet kitten. He lives up to Bluefur's fears about him. Snowfur the ghost does not have many strong thoughts about Thistleclaw after her death. In fact, I'm not sure that Snowfur the ghost ever mentions or thinks about Thistleclaw at any point. We have absolutely no idea how she felt about him going forward from her death. We do know that when she was alive, she was unfazed by his arrogance and was a lot like he was, in that she enjoyed fighting and battles and didn't like to stop and let cats run away when they were beaten. I'm sure she wasn't as bad as he was overall, but her presence in his life was one that did not interfere with his bad behaviors. She instead asked Bluefur to be more tolerant of Thistleclaw, to get along with Thistleclaw for her sake. She didn't have power over him or power over his behavior. She wanted to make peace between two people she loved, but placed the blame for that lack of peace firmly on Bluefur, despite the fact that Thistleclaw was antagonistic with her himself. In life, Snowfur's conversations with Thistleclaw are adoring. She purrs to him when he whispers that he'll be leader one day. She flirts with him in the apprentice den. She's reassuring, but not scolding, to him when he's being rude as a kitten apprentice. She has only positive interactions with him, and maybe, like a lot of people with bad boyfriends, she doesn't even really fully understand the poor way he treats others if he treats just her with some level of respect. But we can't really know that, because we're never really in Snowfur's head. While on the subject of Thistleclaw and Snowfur, Spotted Leaf's heart doesn't really consider Snowfur at all. While it mentions her dead a few times, she has extremely little relevance to the story, just showing up as a ghost to say, yeah, we'll take care of those kittens. Even Whitepaw is largely just used in the story as a reason that Thistleclaw is around Spotted Paw at all. Likewise, when Snowfur comes up, she's largely only referenced as Whitepaw's mother. So despite Snowfur literally appearing at the end, Thistleclaw's relationship to her is never relevant in the book at all. Spotted Leaf's heart is an uncomfortable topic, and we don't really need to go over it again here, and no, we do not even need to use it as an example of Thistleclaw's behavior, considering the first time we ever saw Thistleclaw in any book, the thing that established him as a character on page was this. Okay, not literally this, because this is the colored version. Snowfur probably knew full well that Thistleclaw was bloodthirsty, but Snowfur was a bit bloodthirsty too. She was excited by fighting before Thistlepaw ever joined her in apprenticeship, and excited to be involved in battles only a few days into her own, and even telling Thistlecit that she would teach him battle moves that she learned. Remember, she's only a couple months older than he is. She's not being led by him and her interests. Fighting is a passion that she has herself and takes interest in even after her own mother is killed in battle. And out of the warriors in ThunderClan, Thistleclaw having interest in her specifically, even regardless of her being friends with him when they were young, makes sense, because she would be someone who shared his passions and his behaviors. I think on some level it's possible that what added to the perception of Snowfur as a sweet, calm, peaceful character, aside from her cute name and snow bunny appearance, is the comment from Thistleclaw that White Kid is soft like his mother in Crooked Star's Promise, but I think largely it's just from what she is. A dead queen character. A character that people associate with dying tragically, and also with being a mother, and, of course, being a she-cat. But her tragic death, although blamed on Bluefur as if it was an inevitability by both Thistleclaw and Bluefur herself, was something caused by Snowfur. Snowfur is not a force of nature, uncontrollable if she sees a ShadowClan cat running away like a dog with a high prey drive. Snowfur is a person who chose to keep chasing fleeing warriors, much like Thistleclaw was a person who wanted to kill Oakhart instead of allowing him to run away. Snowfur died because she wanted to keep beating up a couple ShadowClan cats. And even though Snowfur was a queen, she wasn't really enjoying it. She was cooped up, annoyed by the millions of new kittens in the nursery, and complaining about how Thistleclaw got to go on patrol while she had to stay at home with their kid. She was in an unfair position and wasn't enjoying the time off. I'm not saying that she was some sort of hypothetical bad mother, but out of all the things that Snowfur is defined by, queen and mother shouldn't be that high on the list. And then, well, when it comes to being a she-cat, it's sort of an inevitability. You could give a female character a full life in these books, but if you show them as a mother, their time as a mother ends up under a microscope. But Snowfur's time as a mother is like half a chapter, so to the fandom at large, that kind of shortens to was a mother. Compared to Bluefur, Snowfur is less resentful. This is something that's obvious. Bluefur was extremely prone to grudges and suspicions. Bluefur was angry in her situation and coped with everything a lot more poorly than her sister, but there isn't a good or evil between them. Both of them have good qualities and both of them have vices. Both sisters feel like the other one has problems. Bluepaw judges Snowpaw for getting over their mother so quickly in the same bubble as Snowpaw saying Bluepaw is, quote, in one of her moods. Both sisters will treat each other poorly or snap at the other and then feel bad about it. They have a close relationship and they fight because both is passionate about what they believe. Handling not getting along with your sister's boyfriend is a big task, even if that boyfriend isn't someone God has been actively trying to prevent from assuming power. Snowfur loves both Bluefur and Thistleclaw dearly. She doesn't want to choose between them, but like I said before, is putting a lot of that on Bluefur exclusively. She shakes off Bluefur's worries about him. She says, I know you don't like him, but he is good and kind, even though he has been quite unkind to Bluefur. And while their apprentices tells Bluepaw, I wish you would make more of an effort to like him. Snowfur is never shown trying to repair their relationship from the other end, because she doesn't seem to acknowledge the other end. And this becomes a problem because Bluefur isn't ever really wrong. Sure, she's really fixated on him, how arrogant he is, how smugly and disrespectfully he treats others, and how he treats her about as badly, and questions her authority openly while she's a warrior and he's an apprentice. But Bluefur isn't ever getting the wrong idea. These are all things that are true about Thistleclaw, and as he becomes more obviously bloodthirsty, Bluefur is still right about Thistleclaw. And on some level, it might be Snowfur's perception of the situation that gives people the wrong idea about Bluestar's prophecy, that there's some sort of implication that she's an unreliable narrator or that she's unfairly judging Thistleclaw, but when you read the book itself, you really need to bend over backwards to try and justify this idea. People inside of Bluestar's prophecy say, no, Bluestar, you're wrong. And sometimes Bluestar thinks, you know what, I'm being too hard on him. He hasn't actually done anything wrong, but she's wrong to think that, and the narrative makes that clear. Something that might have solidified Snowfur as dead mom, instead of multifaceted character, could have been Secrets of the Clans 2 years earlier, because she says, I will take care of him, I spoke up. The others all looked around at me. I was a queen when I died, I pointed out. My son, Whitepaw, had only recently left the nursery. I remember well how to care for kits, and I miss it. I would be a good mother to this kit. And for the first 2 years of Snowfur, that's all anybody had of Snowfur. It doesn't really line up at all with her behavior in Bluestar's book 2 years later, but it was a different author and a different thought process. Debating who gets to raise a StarClan kit in general feels strange and just brings up all sorts of uncomfortable implications with them. Like, are they being taken care of forever? Can they be taught? Can they learn? They seemingly can't grow, which is terrifying, especially in the case of the stillborn ones. We know that later on, Bluestar mentioned to be taking care of Mosskit with Oakheart and StarClan. Does this mean that Mosskit was raised for years and years by Snowfur, only to be passed along to Bluestar like a doll when the latter eventually dies? Would a kitten that was a kitten for its entire lifetime, with a different parent, even see their biological parent as their parent? Anyways, my point about Snowfur is that she longs to kill. The end.